All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on a part of the corporate world that's, well, often overlooked but is absolutely crucial. We're talking about the Audit Committee. Now, I know it doesn't sound like the most exciting topic, but stick with me, because this is the hidden force that lets you actually trust the numbers you see from major companies. So, let's get into it. You know, it all really boils down to one simple, but pretty fundamental question. When a company drops its latest earnings report, and you see all these impressive profits, soaring revenues, how do you really know you're getting the real story? How can you actually trust those numbers are legit?
See, at its core, this is all about trust. In the financial markets, trust isn't just some nice-to-have bonus. No way. It is the absolute bedrock that everything else is built on.
And right away, you can see this natural tension, this kind of push and pull. On one side, you've got the company's management. Their job is to report strong performance, right? But on the other side, you've got the public, you've got investors, and what we need is just accurate, unvarnished information. And yeah, those two interests, they don't always line up perfectly.
So this leads to a classic problem, right? The old who checks the checker dilemma. A company hires an outside auditor to check its books, which sounds great. But if the management team is the one hiring and, more importantly, paying that auditor, how can we be 100% sure that the auditor is truly independent? I mean, this isn't just some theoretical classroom question. This is a recipe for disaster that has led to some major corporate scandals in the past. So the question remains, who is checking the checker?
And that is exactly where the Audit Committee enters the picture. It was literally designed to solve this exact problem of trust and independence.
Okay, so what is it exactly? Well, the Audit Committee is basically a special independent group that's part of the company's board of directors, and their main job is to act as the liaison, the bridge, really, between the company's management and those external auditors.
And this quote really nails a super important point. It's not just about being independent, it's also about the appearance of independence. The market, investors, all of us, we need to see that the auditors aren't being swayed by the very management team they're supposed to be checking up on. The committee's job is to create that clear, visible separation.
You know, just having an audit committee in the first place is a really powerful statement. It's the company putting up its hand and formally saying, hey, we get it. We have a huge responsibility not just to our own executives, but to you, the public, the investors who are relying on our financial data to be accurate and fair. Okay, so how do they actually pull this off? What are their specific jobs? Let's think of it as the Guardian's playbook. This is the set of actions they take to protect the integrity of the company's financials.
It really boils down to three main jobs. First up, they manage the auditor. Second, they scrutinize all the reports. And third, they make sure the company is upholding the rules. Let's break each one of those down. All right, first, managing the auditor. The committee is really in the driver's seat for this one. They're the ones who recommend which auditing firm gets hired. They approve the fees, which is huge because it takes management out of that whole negotiation. Then they review the auditor's entire game plan and, maybe most importantly, they get the final, totally unfiltered findings directly from the auditor.
Next up, they scrutinize everything. And I mean everything. We're talking about every single quarterly and annual report before it even gets to the main board. They dig deep into the auditor's evaluation of the company's internal controls. And get this, it's not just the external reports. They even review the work of the company's own internal auditors. Basically, nothing gets a pass without their eyes on it.
And finally, they uphold the rules. The committee is really involved in setting the company's financial DNA, so to speak. This means they have a say in which accounting policies the company uses, and that's a huge deal, because that choice can totally change how the profits look on paper. They also review all the policies to prevent conflict of interest, and they make sure the company stays on top of any new accounting rules. In short, they're the internal rule keepers.
Okay, so after digging into all those details, let's zoom back out for a second. What does all of this actually mean for you? Why should you care about this committee that kind of operates behind the scenes? Why does it truly matter?
Well, it's actually pretty simple. The easiest way to think about it is this. The Audit Committee is your financial watchdog. They are that independent group sitting inside the company whose number one job is to protect your interests by making sure the information you get is trustworthy.
So you see, the Audit Committee isn't just about checking a box or some boring bureaucratic procedure. No, it's a critical pillar that supports the entire structure of trust in our financial system. It's a vital safeguard for the public and for every single investor out there.
And that really brings us to a final thought here. As our economy gets more and more complex, with new technologies, new kinds of global risks, the role of this financial watchdog only becomes more critical. So it leaves us with a big question to think about. In this ever-changing world, what does the future of corporate oversight actually look like? And how will these guardians need to evolve to keep on protecting us?